Good morning and welcome to the pre-agenda interviews for Wednesday, April 1st, 2026 for the Pittsburgh Parking Authority. Will the clerk please read the title of the bills?
Bill 159, Resolution informing City Council of the appointment of Charles Fisher as a member of the Board of Directors of the Public Parking Authority of Pittsburgh for a term to expire April 10, 2028, serving the remainder of the term for a seat previously held by Kim Lucas.
Thank you very much. We might be joined by other council members shortly, but I'm very pleased to be here today to interview you and to make sure that you get to introduce to the public Reverend Fisher. So I will turn the floor over to you to introduce yourself and to offer brief remarks.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Charles Fisher, the Reverend Charles Fisher. I'm a resident of District 7, where Council Member Deborah Gross is our council member, and my ministry is in District 9, where Council Member Kahari Mosley is our council member there. I'm grateful for the opportunity that the mayor has provided for me to serve the city of Pittsburgh in this role in the Pittsburgh Parking Authority. It's a great opportunity for me to offer my service back to a place and city which I have called home for the past 7 years.
Thank you. And for the record, we've been joined by Councilmember Barb Warwick. I will defer to, I know you've just sat down, so I'll give you a minute, but so I'll stall a little bit while we're waiting for the council member to get settled, but I'm saying that I'll ask some questions later, having previously served on the Pittsburgh Parking Authority prior to switching and serving on Pittsburgh Water Board. I can tell you that it's a great organization, it's a great board. There's vast experience in the leadership team, and you learn a lot about issues that you never thought you'd learn about. So I'm grateful for your willingness to serve, and with that, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Warwick to ask any questions she might have.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess just sort of off the top, why the Parking Authority? What is it about the Parking Authority Board that interests you? And
It was an opportunity that was presented to me as I've asked for Mayor O'Connor and his staff as an opportunity to serve the city. Mm-hmm. Having lived in other major cities across the country, or more specifically on the East Coast, we found that this to be an opportunity that would most align with my experiences and also bring different perspectives that may not have already been available here in Pittsburgh.
Okay. So, in Pittsburgh, we have an issue in Pittsburgh of too many cars, right? Far more cars than can fit, whether it be parking in our neighborhoods or parking downtown or parking in Oakland, right? Far too many cars to fit in the space that we have. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts about ways that the parking authority can help to sort of disincentivize driving when you don't need to drive, right? So that folks aren't well, I'll let you answer the question.
At this time, I don't have an exact answer for that question. It's a interesting challenge that the city now possesses. And I look forward to working with members of the authority to have a better understanding of how the authority has addressed said issues in the past and how I can bring my perspective from previous places to resolve that situation.
Okay. So one issue that so from my perspective, it seems to me that we should be sort of there's this culture, and it's across the United States, right? It's not just here, but there, in this sort of like car culture that we have, there's this notion that parking should be free, right? That it is frustrating to people when they have to pay to park, but I think that one of the solutions to this issue of too many cars is that just like you can't leave your personal belongings in the street, right? Like you can't use the street for storage of other personal belongings, right? The street, the right of way does not belong to drivers. And so the the answer to that, in my opinion, is to, increase the cost of parking. Like if you want to drive, especially in areas where we have ample transit options, which aren't many in Pittsburgh, by the way, right? Like, our transit is lacking in many ways. But there are places like downtown, like Oakland, where you can get there without bringing your personal vehicle, especially as a commuter, right? Some other examples are, we see people, for example, and this is something in my district. So I'm District 5 and I have Shenley Park as part of my district, right? So, and we see lots of people parking in Shenley Park all day and taking up all the parking so that even park users don't have, can't find parking in Shenley Park sometimes in sort of like around the Oval and desirable areas because people are parking there for free and then walking over to Oakland to go to work, right? So, I mean, the way I look at it is it's hard to make change, right? It's hard to put in new meters because it's very unpopular, right? It makes people mad when you meter parking that used to be free, or you increase the cost of parking that used to be free, or you add parking on Sunday where it used to be free, right? And we're always getting folks saying, oh, well, could my church have an exception, or could my, you know what I mean? Could we get, and for me, the answer is no, right? Like we charge for parking because it's in the public right of way, and that's what we need to do. So I'm curious about your thoughts just as to the board or a board in general, like if you've ever served on another board, on sort of the ability of the board to drive that kind of change and how that might work. I'm not even sure how many people are on the Parking Authority board.
There's 5 of us.
5. Okay, so it's a pretty small board, right? So it feels like that's a board that the smaller the board, the easier it is to make the change, right? If you have a common goal.
Well, the Pittsburgh Parking Authority is a low-cost alternative for parking here in the city, for one. You also address a number of the culture of the city, where driving one's own individual car is part of the culture of the city. So how do you acknowledge that, as well as making a solution that makes the most sense for the city, as well, maintaining a space, maintaining of opportunities, not to charge for the sake of charging, I don't believe. But if we recognize that and nor should it be used as a deterrent to put meters up so people will stop driving cars, but we also recognize that the more cars that drive, that also changes or alters how the roads and other conditions of neighborhoods are also affected. I don't have all the answers, but I do agree with you to an extent that meters on the street are just part of a changing environment of an urban environment. That's not any different than any other city or many other cities across this country. So that may be a change of culture and change of understanding in the city of Pittsburgh, but it may be a necessary one as we continue to have this culture of people driving. I mean, there becomes multitudes of other solutions. You talked about public transportation and the like. We're not yet at the city to address those, nor is that the responsibility of the Parking Authority either.
Okay, well, I don't think I have any other questions, but that's all for me.
Thank you, Councilmember. Well, I'll pick up where we left off there and just say, acknowledge that the Pittsburgh Parking Authority and the city, I think, are, for the first time since I've worked at the city, which is about 12 years, embarking in some policy changes that are then driving culture shift, which is painful. It's hard to see culture. It's hard for people to go through a culture shift, and by that I mean with a bill or policy allowing for ticket by mail. We see, people who are accustomed to, when they're parking illegally or they overstay a meter, not getting the ticket on their windshield, but then, a couple weeks later getting it. And that's a change. But also purple loading zones, right? Ticket by mail there. Cameras that are automatically ticketing people. On the one hand, that means changing behavior to know that you can't park in a bike lane and then get away with it anymore because there's going to be a 24-hour a day camera there. There are certain parking lots where if you haven't paid, even if it's before, you're accustomed to parking before the meter started or the enforcement started, now it's a 24-hour a day camera and you're going to get ticketed. Even if you're pulling over for 2 seconds into like an illegal space next to a crosswalk to pick up your kid, like you're going to get a ticket 2 weeks later. So it's painful and we're getting the emails and it shows, but probably necessary because there are reasons for that, right? There are reasons why we don't want people to park next to a crosswalk. It's for safety for the pedestrians. And part of my underlying kind of ethos when it comes to serving the public, and I know the council persons as well, is everyone should be able to travel safely through the city regardless of the mode of transportation. So those two are butting up against each other. My question for you is, have you in your experience led an organization through sort of a culture change or a shift, and how have you navigated that? What can you bring to the board to help ease that or grease the wheels a little bit? So
yes, changing of culture is a responsibility of every organization one works in. If you're willing to make change, usually for positive change, not just to address a challenge, to address a challenge, but not to disturb what's going on, but to make something different. I mean, I've pastored churches in the past, and I've also worked in other organizations, such as a seminary, and working to build a culture of understanding so people have the best understanding of why some changes are necessary, or not for the sake of change, but also for the change of enhancing the organization and other things that we are involved in as well, for the betterment of all people.
Great, thank you. Last I'll say is, I know it's the desire of many to finally be able to tackle the issue of people forced to park or feeling they're forced to park on the sidewalks, which is pretty rampant across narrow streets across the city,
yes.
Not every street. They do that because they're afraid of their cars getting rammed into or their mirrors getting taken off. It's a challenge. There's no easy answer, but at the same time when that happens, not only does it diminish the ability for people of all users, but especially those using wheelchairs, electric wheelchairs, pushing strollers, to be able to safely get through. It's a violation of the ADA, right? But it's also, it wears down on people's sidewalks that they then have to pay to replace. So no easy answer, but if you and the board are able to figure out a way to tackle that, especially in areas close to, even starting out close to health centers and hospitals and schools and daycare centers and places where people need to be able to access as a starting point, that would be a huge benefit to the city, in my opinion. So, yeah, thank you. Anything further, Councilmember Warwick? Okay, well, I don't see any members joining online. Thank you very much again for your willingness to serve. It's a great board. It's a great leadership team. I think you'll enjoy your time there, and we're really grateful for your time here today. Having exhausted the business of this pre-agenda interview, this meeting is adjourned. Good morning and welcome to the Standing Committees meeting for Wednesday, April 1st, 2026. All council meetings will be live streamed on the city's website, and for guest speakers, please do not turn off your microphones. Our first order of business is roll call. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Mr. Sharland.
Here.
Mr. Coghill. Ms. Gross. Mr. Lavelle.
Here.
Mr. Mosley. Ms. Salanetra.
Here.
Ms. Warwick.
Here.
Mr. Wilson. Ms. Strasburger, Chair.
Here.
6 members present.
Thank you. Our next order of business is public comment. I would like to remind all speakers that the rules of council state that comments are limited to matters of concern, official action, or deliberation which are or may be before City Council. Profanity will not be permitted. Please state your name and neighborhood for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak. And our first registered speaker is Zachary Fedek. I can hear you.
Good morning. My name is Zachary Fedek, and I am a first-year law student at the University of Pittsburgh. And I want to speak today in support of the University 2026.
Zachary, I apologize. We can hear you, but you're quite muffled. You came through clearly for just a minute there. I don't know if there's any change to your audio you can make.
Okay, now let's try.
That's better. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, it auto connected. Yeah, I was just I'm speaking in support today of ordinances 2026, 286, 87, 88, and 89. I believe that these measures create a good framework for the use of the city's resources. This is just from a pure budgetary standpoint, like, it's better that we don't need to waste money on things for an agency that is federally funded for the next 4 years, protects against discriminatory treatment and access to city services. At a lot of county council meetings recently, people have expressed concern over people not accessing services because they fear that information is going to be shared with ICE. I think that passing these ordinances, all of them, is going to create a very strong framework for what we're wanting to do with this city. I just wanted to speak from a personal note today. These ordinances could have a major role depending on the role of the Supreme Court decision that is being heard today regarding birthright citizenship. If somehow that goes in the way of overturning the 14th Amendment, I don't personally see it, but it theoretically could happen. It's all the way up there. These ordinances are going to play a significant role, even larger than we can possibly imagine given the current state of affairs. I want council to remember that we need to work together. Everyone here is involved. We need to address all these concerns. We need to address both our resource limits and have proper enforcement mechanisms in place. We are not City Council is not an arm of federal arm enforcement. City Council is bound to the people of Pittsburgh. Yeah, these ordinances, they promote public safety. You're fostering more trust. County Council already passed similar ordinances. I would advise City Council to speak along and follow along here. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mackenzie McFarland. We have Mackenzie McFarland with us. Not seeing them, we will move on to Nicole Norman.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Norman. I live in Crafton Heights. I am here to speak in support of the ordinances 2026-0286 through 0289. I'm also the CEO of Las Hermanitas Immigrant Resource Fund, a public charity that helps immigrants afford the costs that are associated with immigration. First and foremost, I'd like to thank those of you who co-sponsored this legislation. It makes me proud to know that our elected representatives realize the importance of acting proactively rather than reactively. As someone who has worked in immigration law for the past few years, passing this bill is very critical. This bill neither risks the loss of federal funding, nor does it make us a sanctuary city. It does not violate federal law because it does not prohibit sharing immigration status when required by law for criminal investigations. It only prohibits voluntarily conducting civil immigration enforcement, which is not required by law. These ordinances provide that the rule of law will be adhered to, which is something that every Pittsburgh resident should want. That being said, I understand the need for balancing national public safety without sacrificing human security. Those who oppose this bill may consider it to be anti-police, but I implore you to reconsider because not passing this bill is dangerous. Earlier this year, a former ICE attorney and ICE Academy instructor, Ryan Schwenk, testified before Congress to bring awareness to the perils of ICE's operations as they exist today. He testified that there was a secretive order that cut 240 hours of vital classes from ICE Academy training, which includes firearms training and the limits of officers' authority. They eliminated the legal instructions for use of force, which means ICE cadets are unprepared to make split-second decisions about what they can and cannot do in real life or death situations. That is not the same expectation that we have for our police officers. To fill their ranks of ICE officers, they have abolished the academic and practical tests that determine if they can even safely and lawfully do their jobs. His testimony has corroborated what I have personally witnessed in this area as a legal observer with multiple organizations. I have personally witnessed ICE in Castle Shannon cover a man's face with a hood and violently throw him into a white van. This is behavior you'd expect in Russia, not in Pittsburgh. Supporting ICE's current tactics for civil immigration will have a catastrophic effect on our local businesses. We have seen this happen at Mexican restaurants such as Las Palmas and also international grocery stores. Without these international businesses, what would the Strip District look like? I can't imagine. Pittsburgh has always been a welcoming city to immigrants. That is our history. These ordinances preserve our history while protecting the future of Pittsburgh and generations to come. Pittsburgh has always stood for fairness, dignity, and the rule of law. These ordinances do not weaken our city. They strengthen it by ensuring our resources are used responsibly, our residents are protected, and our values are upheld. I urge you to stand on the side of constitutional protections, public safety, and our shared futures. Please vote yes to these ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tanisha Long.
Good morning, Council. I'm here today to speak in support of the ordinances that would limit city cooperation with ICE. I come here as someone who works with the Abolitionist Law Center, a law firm that has recently won a massive PA Supreme Court decision and fights for the rights of incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people. I also come here as someone who bartends on the South Side and has witnessed firsthand ICE agents taking people into custody and refusing to show warrant. I also come here as a citizen of Crafton Heights and someone who has seen neighbors taken from Crafton by ICE agents. I come here as someone who, like most of you, have seen the video of Pittsburgh police officers not only cooperating with ICE agents, but offering assistance when it was not asked for. We cannot control human intent, we cannot control morality, we cannot control human behavior, but what we can control is what this city chooses to stand for, the beliefs it espouses, and the policies that it sets forward. And that is the job of council. The job of council is to make sure that every resident, every employee in the city of Pittsburgh understands that there are limits and there are laws. We are not an arm of the federal government. We are not here to provide extra resources to the federal government. And with the budget that the city has before it, we can't afford to give another dollar to an agency that has more than enough. We cannot afford to give additional resources, and we cannot afford to spend time having to assure citizens that our officers are not agents of the federal government, that Pittsburgh police officers will not be working on behalf of the federal government. And that is what's currently happening. Even though we have competing messages from Police Chief Lando and Mayor Corey O'Connor, which says that the city is not working with ICE, but they may step in, we need to provide clarity. And we need council to be that strong hand that says this is exactly what we will and will not do. Because it is very clear in the videos that are released that people are more upset when these behaviors are uncovered, when these officers' names are released, than they are at the behaviors and actions. I was deeply disturbed to see a city of Pittsburgh police officer offering to detain somebody who was not the subject of an ICE investigation. They not only seemed enthusiastic, but gleeful to do so. And these are the people that we currently have employed for the city, and they need to know that there are rules and that they will be enforced. I also am very excited to see that there is a provision in the bill that would help clarify for citizens what surveillance technologies are being used, which is something that in past council meetings, it's become apparent is not clear. I think council is not always aware of what surveillance technologies are being used and how our money is being spent. And I think it's important that we get this sense of clarity, not just for our citizens, but for residents and neighbors. Everybody deserves to know where their tax dollars are going, and everyone deserves to know what technologies are being used against them. So right now, I ask council to take the not so brave step of clarifying how our city will and will not cooperate with ICE. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rosanna Elena Guernica.
Good morning. My name is Rosana Elena Guernica from downtown District 1, and I'm speaking in an individual capacity today in support of ordinances 2026-0286, 0288, and 0289, and Regulation 0287. And while I'm going to be speaking from a much more personal place today, as somebody who's a former law enforcement and technology consultant and has dedicated the past 3 years to study the rule of law, I strongly support the last two statements made by my co-residents. Almost 8.5 years ago, Hurricane Maria devastated my home. After the storm had done its worst, almost 3.5 million U.S. citizens were without basic human needs. The ensuing humanitarian crisis that took place afterwards took an estimated 4,500 lives, an estimate because people died faster than the government could count. I mention this because during that crisis, even more countless Pittsburghers stood up and helped countrymen so far away. So much so that me and my fellow undergraduates were able to raise $250,000 to evacuate almost 300 people who were at death's door and deliver 76,000 pounds of aid that were given out to grassroots organizations and doctors. Yinzers, who knew very little Puerto Rico and its people, but felt a strong connection through Roberto Clemente and his humanitarian spirit, stepped up to the plate. In October of 2018, the city of Pittsburgh granted me a proclamation for leading these efforts. Almost 8.5 years ago, wow, how things have really changed. In Pittsburgh and across the country, Puerto Ricans are a part of the group of people unjustly targeted and harassed by federal DHS agents. In about a month, I'll be the first in my family to earn a law degree and the first on my father's side to obtain a bachelor's. My father could not be prouder. Yet I worry for my father, my brother, and other family members whose skin is darker than mine, who speak with a thicker accents. And I hope that when they come, the package of legislation you've introduced will have passed so that we can enjoy the day without fear from our local officers, in addition to our federal ones. The proclamation issued to me described Pittsburgh as a most livable city. But to me, what makes it livable are the little pieces of Spanish I hear on the bus, the glances of the Puerto Rican flag, sights and sounds I no longer see. I hope we can start to repair from the damage and pain DHS has inflicted on our community, as so many communities across the country. These ordinances are not only sound public policy and reflect proper local and the proper balance of local and federal power, but they also are a first step to getting us back to the city we once were. I appreciate your time and being here today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Daniel Delaney.
Good morning, Council. My name is Daniel Delaney. I live in Shadyside. I'm a proud member of Pittsburgh DSA. We're the local chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. I'm here to urge you all to support, just like my co-residents here, to pass the ICE-related ordinances 0286, 8889, as well as the resolution 0287. Councilmember Strasburger, as a Shadyside resident, I'd like to thank you for co-sponsoring 0286, and I'm really hoping you'll support the others as well. As some of my co-residents have mentioned, we've heard promises from Mayor O'Connor that the city would not cooperate with ICE, but promises are not enough. As mentioned, just recently, body camera footage came out showing Pittsburgh police cooperating with ICE in December, and that's why we need these binding laws and not just assurances from the mayor. ICE simply has no place in our community. ICE is an agency that terrorizes immigrant families, separates loved ones from each other, and they subject immigrant communities to fear and to violence. All Pittsburghers deserve to move through the city safely without the fear of being abducted by masked federal agents. I'd really recommend, if you all haven't done so yet, take some time and go watch the public testimonies about ICE from the Allegheny County Council meeting on March 10th. There were tons of thoughtful, passionate comments. I think you'll learn a lot listening to them, just like I did. I thought a lot about one of the speakers from that night, a very brave young person. I think she said she was 17. She stood up in front of council in that packed room, and with tears in her eyes, she talked about how it feels to be part of an immigrant family right now. How she goes to bed with fear in her heart every single night because she's worried the next day might be the day that her parents are abducted by ICE agents. So whether you're deciding, when you're deciding whether to support these bills, I hope that you'll think about that young person, and I hope that you'll think about the thousands of immigrants in our city who deserve to feel safe. Please support and pass these bills. Thanks.
Thank you. Our final registered speaker is Chief Ikahana Helmakina.
Greetings and good day. My title is Chief Ikahana Helmakina. I'm the Grand Inca of the Iroquois Confederacy of Aboriginal American People. What's next, City Council? There are days that I just can't make it here. And why does that mean that I will likely be blindsided by temporary or sustained legislation that may adversely impact many families? This should never be the case. All these last-minute plans will have long-term effects on the residents and people in this city. Aren't people suffering enough dealing with a spike in gas prices due to a war Congress didn't approve of? The already expensive food costs are going up, along with every other good and service that people rely on, and that relies on gas as its source of fuel. Simply put, you are all absolutely not considering doing the jobs that you were hired to do, which is to be the voice and an advocate for the people that you serve. In my opinion, you should be ashamed of yourselves. It just doesn't make sense. Bobby Wilson, how can you in good conscience introduce legislation that increases parking for your constituents? Parking lots going to $250, $100 a day. Didn't Live Nation just get caught making fun of people who were actually paying such enormous fees to park? This is absolutely absurd. Speaking of absurd, allowing the USDA to hire sharpshooters without notifying people is egregious, to say the least. Whether it's in the evening, at dark, in the middle of the night, waking people up. Your officers weren't even in line with you. They went out for the call, searching with flashlights. You all have to get on the same page. This is what these meetings are for, public safety meetings are for. Not to mention your license plate readers that are collecting and sharing data beyond the license plate number, which means they are currently violating people's privacy. Something more must be done. Lastly, as this country celebrates 250 years, we are watching the dismantling of the Constitution. Today, the Supreme Court will review the birthright citizenship with Trump's aim to indiscriminately use this rule of law to try to continue to unlawfully extract, remove, and deport anyone who has melanin out of America. I urge this council to protect the people of this city and stop placing undue burdens on them. Please plant more shady trees and stop making shady deals. Thank you for...
Thank you. There being no further registered speakers, we'll now take comments from those in the audience wishing to speak. Are there any speakers wishing to come to the podium?
Excuse me. Good morning. My name is Yvonne F. Brown. I live at 715 Mercer Street. That's the high rise up at the top of Bedford with 190 apartments in there. I wanted to say, my daughter Unique comes down and she speaks. Now, what she's doing is her own thing. It's not me. I know you said her. She's telling her. No, I'm not. It's the way she feels when she came here, how she feels that you disrespect us. And she's a young person. I'm older, been coming here for a long time, and I do have my mind made up about the different ones of you, different ones. And what I think of you, I've been praying because I do believe hate will eat you up. And sometimes the way I feel about Jens is really bad. And I do, when I feel that feeling, I do say, Lord, forgive me. Take this feeling away from me. Because we could work together, just like the gentleman said, if we work together. And then another thing I want people to understand, when you hear me clapping, I'm clapping to let the people know that I'm listening, because most of the time, you're not. Now, this is the first time I've seen all of you halfway looking at me. You usually are on the phone or the computer, tablets, and I said you shouldn't be allowed to even have them at that table. And if you have a message that needs to be dealt with, let your aide do it. He's back there. Don't let him come in here and disturb you. This table is supposed to be, we're sitting and talking together. There's a lot of things you will not know that's happening in my neighborhood if I don't tell you. And then I'm telling you, I was sad when two ministers stood up here yesterday and said about how the ISIS, they seem to be in agreement with ISIS. I'm saying ISIS is breaking the law. And then the way that they're doing the human beings, they killed that woman. They said she had a 6-year-old daughter. Now, the daughter don't have a mother. The mother was not attacking the police. She was running, going away. Come on now. If you're killing Americans, you are killing Americans, and anybody that's for ISIS or even the ministers. Hey, God didn't make, I mean, we're all human beings. I don't understand how you can even think about the things that are happening, how they're putting hoods on. They covering up their face. We don't have their names. Please, sorry.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Special Agent Sunshine, the missing child, Cerise Taylor. Lord, thank you for using me as a vessel to do your will, not mine. I return the sender any voodoo hexes curses sent towards me, 100 trillion Googleplex. I return all evil out of sender to go permanently blind in Jesus' name. And I curse to death every monitoring spirit in the world, including this building, to go permanently deaf in Jesus' name. I just came to bring a few words of wisdom and to kind of encourage the small business owners who want to participate in the draft activities. The first one I want to bring comes from Isaiah 3:14. It says, "The Lord enters judgment against the elders and leaders of his people. It is you who have ruined my vineyard. The plunder from the poor is in your houses." A lot of people's houses were stolen by this city. And now they have to, the people that live in those houses, those families, now have to go because those houses didn't belong to the city. They belong to the poor, and they were stolen. So now the FBI is putting these people out on the street. Families, children have to go because of identity theft fraud in our government. The second word of wisdom I want to bring to you comes from Proverbs 26:24 through 26. It says, "A malicious man disguises himself with his lips, but in his heart he harbors deceit. Though his speech is charming, do not believe him, for 7 abominations fill his heart. His malice may be concealed by deception, but his wickedness will be exposed in the assembly." Mosley, what horse you betting on this week? Gambling will be your demise, I promise you. To the small business owners who want to participate in the draft activities, the reason why you're being blocked is because the payroll for the $250 million that will be made has to be paid to corrupt government officials, corrupt police officers, lawyers and judges, librarians, postal workers who steal and block communication. Pittsburgh Water, the city owes right now $13 million. They don't have it. So they have to get it by any means necessary. So they will not be able to share what they make from the draft with you because of all the debt they have to pay to those they already owe, and they don't have it. Jesus, please forgive them all. But whatever your wrath is, bring it with tsunami force in Jesus' name. I really hope and pray that y'all get it together. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Honorable Council. My name is Shalivia Thomas Murchison. I live at 115 East 11th Avenue in the Homestead area. I'm addressing you guys today about a slogan that we would like to put forward in Pittsburgh that we think is very important. Say no to drugs, okay? Right now, the development in which I'm specifically talking about is called One Homestead. It is a program that's run by, or a development that's run by A.M. Rodriguez, who is stationed out of 100 West Station Square Drive, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15219. It's headed by Victor Rodriguez, Paul Rodriguez, Anthony Rodriguez, and now they have a younger son, David Rodriguez. They are funded federally and by the state. We cannot control everything that is going on. I hear the testimony about ICE and Trump and all these things. I'm not dense to what's going on in society. I'm specifically talking about what's happening in my suburb. These developments that are coming into our suburbs have been packaged to be a development that would bring value to our investments in these neighborhoods. I am an investor in that neighborhood. I purchased a home, I'm a taxpayer, I'm a grandmother, I'm a homeschool parent, teacher, and I love the city and state of Pennsylvania. We're asking for the council member who controls that district where A.M. Rodriguez does business to remove your permission to them to do business in the state of Pennsylvania. We can only do what our power allows us to do. As far as the people, we can say no to drugs. That's what's in your power to do. Because these developments that they are putting in our suburbs are drug-ridden. They're filled with drug dealers. I don't know if you guys ever saw the movie New Jack City. That's what's happening in Homestead. I was personally affected by it, and I continue to be affected by it. And you think because of the color of my skin that I'm with that, and I'm not. So we're asking for the funding for PHFA to be removed because that's federal. We're asking for Bank of America, Bank of New York, Mellon to pull the funding because that's also federal, moving from state to state. The money is there. This one project that Rodriguez did in Homestead, it was only worth $14 million. Don't let the numbers scare you. If the water company, city of Pittsburgh owes the water company, what, $14 million, $13 million? You're allowing them to do that just on a project that's in Homestead, so the money's there. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys, and later on I would like to speak with you directly about other things here, but pulling the funding is something we can do.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do not want to be associated with that.
Next speaker, please. Next speaker, please. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, we will move on to our standing committee's agenda. And our first committee, under Finance and Law, New Papers, Bill 278.
Resolution amending Resolution 933 of 2024, which reappropriated Federal American Rescue Plan funding by updating the approved project as outlined in Exhibit A, Version 10.
Motion to approve.
Let's see here. So with all of our budget reopener bills, we will need to hold for public hearing, with the exception of 279, which we will need to discuss an amendment to that's before us. So just to kind of preface that, we're not going to read them all at once, all together, but we do need a motion for hold for public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Bill will be held for a public hearing. Bill 279.
Resolution amending Resolution 838 of 2025, which fixed the number of officers and employees of the City of Pittsburgh for the 2026 fiscal year and the rate of compensation thereof, and set maximum levels for designated positions by eliminating one district chief and adding one assistant chief in the Department of Public Safety, Bureau of Emergency Medical Services.
Second with discussion, Councilman Wilson. Second discussion. I believe we have Acting Director Price here to discuss this if needed. Okay. Discussion, Council Member Gross.
Your mic's off.
Thank you. I'm trying to compare them side by side. So maybe you could just say the numbers out loud for us so we know kind of what the change is from what to what.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was answering an email back there. What bill are we on?
No, that's
I
okay.
apologize.
We're doing the yellow copy. Do you have this one?
Do you mind?
Yeah, perfect.
So the only change here was in EMS, and we were changing a position. We are adding an assistant chief to EMS, and we are decreasing. It was the one division chief.
Okay, so the rest of the amendment is the same. I don't have my text file with me. So like in the budget change on the first page, it has like number of police officers, total uniformed police, police sergeant, police lieutenant, commander. So even though it's not being amended right now, the amendment that came over a week ago from the administration, are those increasing the number of those officers?
Were you talking about the police amendment? No, that would not. No, that would not add to any of these numbers. That would be a civilian position.
I'm confused.
I think you're referring to the amendment that came over to add a head of wellness. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, right there on your sheet, it says what is in front of me, and I don't have the original text file. So what is already in Legistar is what we're amending. Right.
So the only thing that we're changing is the EMS section.
From what was introduced.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
But what was introduced?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
It's hard. I know, because we're talking about like two series of amendments, so I'm just kind of going backwards.
Yeah. So what was introduced? There was an error in that it said that we were decreasing a district chief, but instead we're decreasing a division chief.
Just the name of the role.
No, I don't think that's true, because section 3, it itemizes police chief, assistant chief of police, commander, police lieutenant, police sergeant. So these are the same as December 2026?
Yes.
Okay. So why are they listed here?
We just keep what was in the existing resolution, and so.
Yeah, but why were they in the existing resolution if there's no change?
That's how it is every year. This is how this particular resolution is submitted every year.
So this is how it was in December?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so the only strikeout, again, we just have the yellow version in front of us, which means you can't actually see, just for the public. The reason why I'm confused is there's no indication of what was before and what has changed.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. So yeah, what was in, at the end of 2025, so if you look at section 5.
Okay.
So what would have been different at the end of December, so where it says division chief in section 5, that number would have said 3, and the assistant chief, that would have said 1.
Okay, great. So that's, again, if you're the public and you're looking at our legislative record, you have to click on this bill 2026-0279 and look at the versions.
Correct.
And that's how you would have to do it, because this version isn't going to show you. But if you compare version to version, then you'll be able to see it. So that's really helpful. I really appreciate you taking the time to explain it to me, because I
it took me a while to understand the questions.
don't have all of the budget numbers memorized.
No,
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And just Chair's prerogative, really quickly, just to kind of walk you through where we're going, there are additional amendments that you have before you that correspond with Bill 285. So when we get to that bill, we will discuss those additional amendments coming over from the administration. So for now, we're really just discussing the amendments to Bill 279. I saw a hand from Councilman Wilson. Were there any further for first round? Second round, Councilman Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask you, since it says presented by yourself.
I'm presenting it on behalf of the administration.
Okay. Is this what you expected then, or?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I agree. It's just a little confusing just to understand what is changed. So you stated that, for the public, but in the future, it would be great just to see the strikeout in the addition everywhere. I'm not sure who made this amendment, but in the future, that would be really helpful.
Okay. Yeah, we'll keep that in mind for the future. Thank you for that suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? So we have a motion and a second to amend. All in favor of amending Bill 279, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Bill is amended. Further discussion? We need a motion to hold for public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Bill be held for public hearing. Bill 280.
Resolution amending Resolution 841 of 2025, which authorized appropriations, salaries, and capital expenditures of the Parks Trust Fund for the 2026 fiscal year, beginning January 1, 2026, by increasing the spend amount by $500,000.
Motion to hold for Cablecast public hearing?
Second.
Discussion? Councilmember Warwick.
So are these bills is this what we discussed yesterday? These are just the bills we're going through one by one?
Yes,
Okay.
these are the bills
Got
that correspond with everything we discussed yesterday.
Got it.
It's a
Okay.
little convoluted, but it's all in there.
Okay.
So, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of holding Bill 280 for Cablecast public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Bill will be held. Bill 281.
Resolution amending Resolution 60 of 2026, authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Justin Hickox and their legal counsel, Steenland Law, PLLC, for a single payment in 2026 in an amount not to exceed $10,000 in full and final settlement of an employment matter.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Wait, was there a second? Yeah, with discussion?
So I just want to, for members' awareness, this is, I believe, the second payment that we have made, settlement payment that we have made because of homophobic language used by our DPW workers. So I just, I had a conversation with our folks at the Commission on Human Relations, and I think that we need to, and this is something that I hope that they'll work on with us. As far as our training, like our, anti-discrimination training, to make sure that that workers who have been employed prior to when we implemented that training are getting that training, and then also to ensure that, and not just DPW, but all city workers are getting that training periodically, right? Not necessarily every year, but every 2 years, just because, the world changes, language changes, right? Like the way and so I think that it's important to kind of keep our workforce up to date, so that, and in this case, this was between workers, right? This was one worker, being discriminated against by another worker. The other case was a member of the public. So I just think that's important that we're giving that training and making sure that everybody knows, what is appropriate when you are a City of Pittsburgh employee. That's all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 281, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Affirmative recommendation. Bill 285.
Resolution amending Resolution 835 of 2025, which made appropriations to pay the expenses of conducting the public business of the City of Pittsburgh and for meeting the debt charges thereof for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2026.
So just as a note, this amendment adds new budget neutral amendments for senior systems analyst, and this involves revised amounts to bridge maintenance and gets us to over the 10% necessary fund balance in 2030. So to preface that, I'll need a motion and a second.
Cablecast.
Well, first we need to amend.
Motion to approve. Discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Second.
Discussion, Councilman Wilson.
Motion to amend.
Second, discussion. Would we like our acting director to describe what's happening here?
Okay.
No? Okay. I'm not going to ask for it unless someone wants to. Okay. Councilperson Charlin, Council Member Warwick.
Yes.
After.
Could you explain what's going on here? I understand that the point is to get us above the 10% minimum.
Yes.
But we're not moving number. Like, what are we moving to get to us above 10%?
So in 2030, so if you put it out to 2 decimal points, it was actually, the fund balance percentage was actually something like 9.96. So in order to get that over that 10% fund balance percentage in 2030, what I did was I took $200,000 away from the amendment that we were intending to add to bridge maintenance in 2028, 2029, and 2030. So we are still adding funding in each of those years for that line item. But I believe the amounts were originally 800,000, 700,000, and 700,000. So we took those down to 600K, then to 500K and 500K in each of those years.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
And that now brings us to 10.02% in for fund balance in 2030.
Gotcha. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Warwick.
So not necessarily about this amendment in particular, but one thing that, yesterday I was online, so I'm not sure who all was at the table, but I want to underscore, and I did say this yesterday, and it's something we can talk about further, but my understanding from the discussion yesterday is that funding, because of the gift from UPMC, funding was removed from the EMS operating budget for vehicles and then moved to PAYGO, with the verbal understanding that that would then be used for vehicles, but it is not actually being put into vehicles. So, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but as these amendments stand, we are reducing what is officially being allocated to vehicles. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is technically correct. Because there was an allocation in EMS's operating budget each year for slightly under $2 million per year. And as you mentioned, due to the UPMC donation, we felt that it was safe to completely remove the 2026 and 2027 allocations. And then we moved the $2 million from 2028, 29, and 30 to the transfer that we do for PAYGO in those years, with the intention that that would be for vehicles. There is nothing explicitly outlined in that PAYGO line that says that they will go to vehicles, and we're not actually amending the CIP at this time. But I mean, right now it is our intention that whenever we we do the CIP for the 2027 operating budget, that those amounts will be for vehicles.
Okay, so I'm I'm gonna just put this out here for us at the table. I'm not comfortable with that. Like, I'm not comfortable with a verbal, like, if we are moving money out of vehicles, it needs to go back into, like, if we're moving money out of EMS because we got this gift, it needs to go back into vehicles. We have garbage trucks that are breaking down. I just got, I just got word from our Teamsters that their folks are saying that and again, this has not been confirmed by environmental services, but something in the ballpark of like 17 garbage trucks are broken right now, or not in service. So this money needs to go back into, that is my opinion, right? Needs to go back into vehicles. And I'm going to look at that with our budget director. But whether that's ELA, and also I want to say I am, and I'll let other members speak to this if they like, of course, but like, it is confusing to me the way that some departments have vehicles in their operating budgets and other departments have their vehicles through the ELA. It is my strong opinion that all money for all vehicles should be managed by the ELA, like as one group. And I don't know if there's rules that ELA can only do capital or something like that that would prohibit that, but it seems to me that it is far clearer, whether it's police or EMS or whatever, if it is vehicles, we should be, it should all be managed under the same umbrella and through the same process. So that's sort of another discussion. But I just wanted to bring that up, that, given the state that we're in, the kind of promise, like, oh, we'll put it in PAYGO and then we'll put it in next year. Like, we're amending the budget today. And there are changes in the outgoing years in other places in this budget. And so there should be no issue with, if there's vehicle money that we don't need to spend in EMS right now because of the UPMC gift, it should go back clearly into vehicles, whether that's today or in the outgoing years. That's my opinion. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Further discussion. So my question building on that is, the mechanism for 2027 is the budget, right? Like we will agree on a budget that then is like allocating funding for vehicles. What is the mechanism to ensure that that happens in 2026?
There isn't currently one right now. Like I said, we're just moving that money into PAYGO for now, but we have to redo the ELA funding plan, and honestly I don't think that it gets into the out years that far, so I would have to check with them.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Gross.
We really shouldn't sit next to each other.
We're just
transferring it into PAYGO is putting it, like, parking it in the capital budget.
Yes.
Right, and so what is the line that it's going to in the capital budget? Is it like, do we literally have like a line that's just
not
unassigned
yet.
PAYGO? I don't think we do have like unassigned PAYGO.
No, because we're not, so it's in that PAYGO line in the operating budget, but we're not amending the CIP right now.
Oh.
We will do that whenever,
we can do that?
Yes.
We leave money just parked in the operating budget in PAYGO, and then we can move it to the capital budget whenever we want? I didn't know we did that. It seems like it would be amending the operating budget technically.
Or do you mean amending the capital budget too?
Well, we can amend the capital budget every week of our lives.
Right.
And we do.
Mm-hmm.
So is this transfer to the capital budget now? And if not, why not?
Well, no, it's not until, so those transfers won't be happening until 2028. So since we're not amending the 2026 CIP because we're not addressing any 2026 projects, if that makes any sense.
No. What does putting it into PAYGO mean if it's not actually in the capital budget?
So whenever we do the 2027 operating budget, the 2027 CIP, there will be projects with that additional funding added at that time.
So it's going to sit in operating in PAYGO for the entirety of 2026?
Well, I mean, This is 2026.
Yes.
Those funding levels, that's not until 2028. So there's no money really sitting around.
Oh, this is one of the out years.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been confused.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. No, this, because again, as we said yesterday, the 2026 budget is money we actually intend to like spend, right? We're approving like the budgetary line items basically, and everything after that in the out years is just projections.
Correct.
That hasn't been voted on yet. Okay.
Right.
No, I'm entirely comfortable with that.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Further discussion? Councilman Coghill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Although I agree with Councilwoman Warwick with most of what she said, specific allocations towards vehicles, and I serve on the ELA board, so I see firsthand the neglect, not just in our tenures, but this goes back decades really. And I'm uncomfortable withdrawing any monies from the ELA because of that reason. But I will say, because of the predicament that we're in, we have to look at everything, which is, I believe, what you did with all these amendments, and say, what do we absolutely have to pay now? What can we put on hold? What can we refund later? We're just in, and I've been in that stage in my personal life as a younger person, so you put off what you can put off, you pay what we absolutely have to pay, and I think these amendments reflect that. Again, I agree with most of what Councilwoman Warwick said. I'm uncomfortable at dipping into ELA just because we got a gift right now, but I understand it because of the predicament we're in. So I'll support it today. But, now that I know Councilwoman Warwick's going to be joining the ELA board with me, and I will be a steadfast supporter and, lobby for new vehicles and more funding so the city can run properly all divisions and all departments. So I'll support it today only because I believe you're doing what you have to do. So thanks.
No further discussion? So we have a motion and a second on the amendment. All those in favor of amending Bill 285, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Bill is amended. Further discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none, we'll need a need a motion for hold for cablecast public hearing.
Motion to hold for cablecast public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bill will be held. Thank you very much, Acting Director Price. That moves us to invoices. Is there a motion on invoices?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of invoices, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Invoices are approved. That takes us to interdepartmental transfers. Is there a motion on transfers?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of interdepartmental transfers, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Transfers are approved. Next is P cards. Is there a motion on P cards?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of P cards, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. P cards are approved. That moves us to Public Safety and Wellness Committee, chaired by Councilman Coghill.
Bill 286, ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh Code Title VI Conduct, Article 1, Regulated Rights and Actions by adding a new Chapter 630A, Non-Intervention with respect to immigration enforcement, to place certain restrictions on the collection and use of information related to citizenship and immigration status. Please, place certain restrictions on the use of city assets, prohibit certain forms of discrimination in city services, and provide for remedies for violations, all under certain terms and conditions.
Motion for a brief discussion.
Motion to approve brief
Motion
discussion.
to approve brief discussion. Sorry.
Second.
Second.
Yeah. I'll defer to the sponsor or sponsors.
Yeah, thank you. So, so this bill serves to codify what our last mayor and our current mayor O'Connor has stated very clearly is the policy here in Pittsburgh, is that our Pittsburgh police and will not cooperate with ICE, and that no employee at the city of Pittsburgh should cooperate with ICE in any form. right? Or I should say in immigration enforcement, right? In any form. It also includes language that clarifies that should a Pittsburgh police officer have someone in custody, that they will not share information about that person's immigration status with ICE. In addition, it clarifies that Pittsburgh police officers, should an ICE officer, or let's say this, should a person who is in the street, detaining someone and pulling them out of their car or whatever they may be doing, a person who is wearing a mask and a vest that says police on it or something, that person should show identification that they are indeed a member of the law enforcement agency that they say that they are. There are a number, the county obviously passed recently similar language, so this sort of works together with that because, of course, the county has oversight over the courts, but this is about, if people, are detained on the way, by Pittsburgh police officers just for run-of-the-mill violations, their detainment as they're moved wherever they may go to the jail or the court, that there will not be cooperation with ICE either. So it's kind of like coupled together. One thing that I want to address, because, I've heard this a lot sort of out in the, the narrative that, what about criminals? Aren't these criminals? I would like to remind the residents of Pittsburgh and, perhaps the American people at large, that just because you are detained by a police officer does not mean you are guilty of a crime, and that we have an entire judicial system set up in this country of due process to determine whether or not someone is in fact guilty of a crime. And so just because you've been arrested or detained by a Pittsburgh police officer does not automatically mean that you are a criminal and therefore somehow deserving to have your immigration information given to ICE and be whisked off to some ICE detention center or be disappeared or whatever, which is what we know the federal government is doing to people. At any rate, so I'm very appreciative of my fellow council members, my team, all of our folks in the advocacy community, right? Whether it be the ACLU, Casa San Jose, Frontline Dignity, everyone who worked to help put this bill together and get the language right so that it is clear and legal. I very much hope that, and my fellow council members for co-sponsoring. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And I also hope that we can quickly get this moving forward, because there are people, lots of people in Pittsburgh today that are terrified to take their kids to school, to get on the bus, to go to work, we've heard stories of folks not taking their kids to the emergency room because they're afraid. And while we may, I feel like there's also confusion for our law enforcement officers, because, there's sort of a policy, but it feels a little vague, and it's, and it's like, well, and, in this case or that case, and this really clarifies it for our own law enforcement officers. And I just myself, I have a resident in Squirrel Hill who is a citizen, by the way, like a naturalized citizen. She's a senior, and she calls me once a week just to ask if I've heard about any ICE, because she's afraid to go to the post. She's afraid to get on the bus and go to the post office in Homestead. Right, and she calls me about once a week just to ask if I've heard of any ICE activity, and so people, because she speaks with an accent and, is not white. And that's what we're talking about here, right? That's who ICE is targeting. And we know that ICE is picking up people who absolutely have their paperwork. We know that ICE we know just recently ICE detained a woman with refugee status, so again, someone here completely legally, and then just a woman with intellectual disabilities, and then just just dropped her off an hour away from her family, didn't tell anybody, didn't do anything, and just, she was found deceased at a bus stop here in Pittsburgh. So, this is very real. So it's very important that we make it clear as a city that we are a welcoming city, and our public safety is here to keep people safe and not to terrorize people. And while we may not necessarily be able to do anything about federal agents who come into our city to terrorize our residents, we certainly can make it clear that we are not going to participate in any way in that activity. And that when people call our public safety department, that the city of Pittsburgh is here to help them, and they should not feel worried about calling 911, right? So, and getting the help that they need. So anyway, that's all for me now. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councilman Coghill, second round.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I really appreciate your efforts here. And I know that the Latino community that I have, a large population, appreciates your efforts. Over the past couple of weeks, I met with Guillermo from Pittsburgh Hispanic Development Corporation. And for those of you who don't know, it's a wonderful corporation. They actually teach immigrants how to set up everything to start a business. And I've been to over a dozen ribbon cuttings for PHDC. And their businesses, he's probably over 60 businesses that have started now from people who came from a different country, and they said mostly South America. All of those businesses are suffering right now, I will tell you, across the board. Nobody wants to come out in the Latino community, and for good reason. They're living in fear right now. So that affects everything across the line with what PHDC does. I also met with Missy and Gabriel. Missy and Gabriel are the owners of Las Palmas, the grocer who had 3 people pulled out in my district on Pioneer Avenue, swept away. One of those persons was here for 18 years, managed 3 different facilities. Missy and Gabriel have businesses throughout the Pittsburgh area. They swear to me he didn't have anything as much as a parking ticket. And that's really disturbing, I will tell you, because there's a lack of communication, obviously. The federal government doesn't communicate with us or the city of Pittsburgh, I guess, or anybody. But I was asking them, I felt like they knew better anyway, did one of them have a criminal record? What was the reason? So apparently they're just pulling people over now. Apparently it's a numbers game and to meet a quota, and that's very fearful in my district. Not only do I have a huge Latino population, but we have a huge refugee population too, who are also living in fear. They don't know, yes, they're here legally, but they still are living in fear because they have accents, basically. So I also met with Monica Ruiz, Casa San Jose. Monica does wonderful work. She is building in my neighborhood, the 3-story beautiful building for her headquarters. PHDC is also headquartered in my neighborhood, Beachview, and so is Las Palmas. It's all their hubs. So we are the central location. So I meet with them on a regular basis to discuss their challenges, and more recently than not, there's been an uptick in ICE agents taking people off the street, and everybody is living in fear. Nobody's coming out. Nobody's spending money. The taco stand in Beachview that's usually dozens of people at any given time, including this early, or even in the morning, are sitting there waiting. So you can see it's hurting our population, it's hurting our vitality, it's hurting everything about what we represent. Again, I meet with them on a regular basis. I wasn't meeting specifically about this legislation, but I did bring it up to them because in the past, each of them have expressed to me that, they don't want attention. They don't want to have the spotlight put on them. They don't want the press writing about it today, which obviously that's going to happen either way at this point. I got a mixed bag from them on this legislation, I will tell you. So I won't tell you which is which, but I was hoping that we were going to be able to talk about this further or hold it for a week because I'd like to circle back with them. I could tell you one person on this list, and we could talk offline about, was favored the county's verbiage versus ours. They thought it was more protective for the Latino community. And I apologize. I really, truly thought we were waiting for a law opinion, and I thought, we had a week or two to discuss, talk, and come to whatever conclusion we come to. So I think we got the email this morning from the law department, the opinion, and I honestly have not seen it yet. So and there is that aspect. What kind of legal positions are we putting our police officers in the city of Pittsburgh? So I was hoping for an answer from the law department on that. I didn't review it. I'm sure somebody here has. But so I'm not fully engaged with that. And I do want to circle back with the leaders that I know in the community that represent, the people in my district before voting on it. So yeah, and I really wanted to go over with you the county's version versus ours. I feel 2 of the 3 that I spoke to preferred that language. And again, I apologize. I thought we'd have time to talk about it, maybe amend it. So I'll abstain today, and maybe we could talk this out coming up till Tuesday. Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Charland.
Thank you. And if Councilwoman Warwick, if you'll indulge me, I would like to be added as a co-sponsor to this. Oh, yeah, for sure. That's okay. I feel very strongly, it's tough for me to gather some of my thoughts on this because we are in a situation now where we are frankly preempted and sort of powerless in this, terrible organization coming in and harming our residents and looking at us as what we can do to help. And I'm thankful that this is, I wish this was a bill that was strong enough to tell ICE they can't be here. That's not something we have the power to do. So I think this is we're looking for what are the things that we can do? How do we control what we can control here? So I thank you for doing the work on this. A couple of years ago, before this was as prevalent, before ICE was amped up like it was, I had a neighbor call me and they were complaining about work that someone was doing on a property across the street. And I was like, okay, put in a 311, put in a complaint to PLI. They were building without a permit, and they were like, I don't want to do that because I don't think the people that are working there are documented. And I was like, oh, that's an angle I never really considered. I was concerned about, building a shoddy building. So we checked with PLI, and PLI said, we don't, that's not something we consider. We're concerned about making sure the property is built properly. With this, and if you'll, Madam Chair, if you allow interrogatory, does this also prevent PLI, does this work for all city employees?
Yes.
Good. Okay, that's something I want to make sure. Again, we don't do that, but it doesn't hurt to have belts and suspenders on an issue like this. I think we all as a body have been working to try to restore some of the trust in public safety and build that back. And then when this agency comes in, it really degrades the trust that people have in public safety. So again, I feel very strongly that this is the right thing to do. I wish we had power to go further. We don't, but I I think this is a good first step. So, yeah, if I could be added as a co-sponsor, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion. Councilmember Warwick.
I did just want to add, that there is this concern that has been floated about, federal, like what could the feds do to us if we do this? Could they pull our federal funding? And I think, trying to legislate and operate in a way that tries to predict what this federal government is going to do is like trying to run a business based on like what a toddler is going to do. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no, you can't, they're off the rails, right? So, we need to do what we need to do for our city and our residents. And, if the federal government, they could do anything, right? We've seen it. We've seen it in Minneapolis. They could come and start executing residents in the street, right? There's that. So it is our duty as the council to protect our residents in every way that we can. And so that's what this bill is about, really, and just ensuring, making our residents understand that no matter what the feds are doing, we are not participating in that, and our job is to keep residents here safe. That is the job of our public safety department. It has absolutely nothing to do with whatever ICE's prerogative is with any one detention. And also there was some talk about some consternation about maybe it was like Zone 3 police not helping an ICE officer who was trying to detain. You know what? These ICE officers are armed to the teeth. And if they were pulling somebody out of their car at a gas station and that person was struggling and they were having trouble doing what they were trying to do, they could have let that person go. If they were struggling so much that they were in some kind of fear for their own they could have let that person go. It's not the job of our police department to help them do their dirty work. So anyway, that's all. Thanks.
Further discussion.
Second round.
I think we're on third round, so Councilman Coghill, third round, and then if there's no one else, I'll make some remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I also did want to mention a couple things. I am very comfortable with the mayor's policy on this, but I do believe we need to convey it to our police officers better. I think that there needs to be better training there as to what they can and what they can't do. And let this be one small example of the difficult job that our police officers have out there to make judgment calls and split-second decisions regarding possibly their life and their livelihood. So the training there, I think we need to ramp that up. I did want to note also that in my meeting with Missy and Gabriel from Las Palmas was State Senator Fontana and State Representative Jessica Benham, who both represent the Beachview neighborhood that I represent and where I'm from. And it was very constructive. I will tell you the two biggest things are, number one, of course, is the fear. People, they don't want to come out. They don't want to come out to buy food. They don't want to come out to buy anything. They are managing within their community, I will tell you, but businesses are all hurting because of the fear. Secondly, the biggest thing is a driver's license, a legitimate driver's license. Is, they have international driver's license. They have certain states and certain cities have driver's license that they give. We do not. There is a bill in Harrisburg that Representative Benham is working on. I think that's the best thing we could do is help promote that. We're going to Harrisburg shortly. Maybe we could, make that on our rounds. But having a driver's license and the fear of driving, if you're in an accident, So those are the two biggest things, but I did want to note that my two state representatives are fully engaged with me and the community, and I wanted to let the immigrant community, they know I'm a staunch supporter of theirs. The three leaders I mentioned here, organizations, they know I'm a staunch supporter. And, we feel for them. We really couldn't really give them any good answers, other than push state and just hope for a climate change. But okay, that's it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I wanted to say that I really appreciate the work of the co-sponsors here, and particularly Councilmember Warwick and her team. It's nice when there are disparate efforts to start working on bills, and then we can all join up and work together on this. I know we had engaged and started working on this with some advocacy groups and then got teamed up together. And I think what we have here in this bill is really a strong bill and really thoughtful. And to me, it's about making Pittsburgh it's codifying what we say we are, which is a welcoming city for all, right? You should not fear going to school, going to work, going to the place of worship, going to the emergency room, or utilizing essential city services because of fear of detainment. Whether or not you are doing things the right way, showing up to your court hearings, your immigration hearings, or whether you are simply going about your day. And, when we have this kind of this level of ICE activity in our communities, detaining people with impunity, regardless of who they are or why they're here, whether they're seeking refuge from a dangerous regime in another country or escaping a natural disaster, and they're here for refuge, and they're fearful about going about their day, and they're fearful about reporting actual crime that happens, it makes everyone less safe, right? It's about this legislation is about trust and allowing people to feel safe accessing our city services or calling 911 when it calls for it. And I do want to be clear, obviously we've all said it, we all know it, that cities can do relatively little to stop federal agents' behavior. We just don't have much power. And we also, very frustratingly, can't compel Congress to pass legislation that offers a clearer path to citizenship. But what we do have control over is our own employees and our own budget and the activity that they do and they don't engage with. So for me, it's just such a moral imperative, right? As long as families are hiding in their homes, as long as people, including children, are detained without due process, with impunity, when children are being detained, when people are dying in custody without due process, when neighbors are frankly being treated as less than human, as long as people are being bullied on the proverbial playground, none of us is safe. So I feel very strongly that in this moment in history, we can't allow the fear of federal government's power of the purse or any other power they might have to engage in preemptive capitulation. We have to do this. So I'll leave my remarks there. Any further discussion? I'll go to Councilwoman Gross and then return to fourth round Councilman Coghill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I want to acknowledge that we all put many weeks of work into this. I think I first met with my staff on these topics, probably like some of you, in January of this year, when we saw the events that were so shocking to so many Americans in other cities. And so we followed the legislation that's been happening that has successfully passed in other places in Pennsylvania. We did work with as many of the people who were able to make time while they were also doing the work of defending our rights and our neighbors' rights in the streets, and also launching many trainings about citizens knowing your rights. I think both Councilman Lavelle and I mentioned this to our police new chief of police and new public safety director when we were having a discussion with them, interviewing them here at this table, that it would be, I think, helpful to do what still isn't here. There's still more work we can do, right? To kind of distribute information to the citizens about what are their rights vis-a-vis law enforcement. And we've seen some of the partner agencies that reviewed all of these pieces, these 4 pieces of legislation, host training programs in the city. There was one recently near my district that had 1,000 people in attendance, 1,000 residents being trained on their rights with law enforcement. We also know that just this past weekend there were 15,000 people right out in front of this building, I think, really standing up for what it means to be a citizen and the rights that we have come to value as citizens. And so I think all of these pieces try to, within our jurisdiction, right? Some places and some of these pieces, it clearly defers to the extent permitted by state and federal law, right? This is where we're saying we do have some jurisdiction and where we don't. So again, it was thank you to my colleagues and especially Councilwoman Warwick's staff. Thank you to my own staff. We'll get to the other pieces next, for figuring out kind of how these pieces fit together and what are really exploring kind of what are the things that we can do. And I think we're seeking in these pieces to just do the things that we are able to do as local government. So again, thank you all. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I want to take this moment to also thank my staff for their work on this. Forgot to say that. Councilman Coghill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just really wanted to, I had forgot to mention, I've been meeting regularly with Congresswoman Summer Lee, and her office was representative there too. She had 2 representatives there. She's very much engaged with us and, with the difficulties that the immigration community is going through. She has an office right in the same neighborhood where all these leaders reside. And I did also want to add, although we didn't have answers for them and there was no real substantial things we can do to help the community, I think they just felt really good that, on the state, federal, city level, that we were all there just to hear, just to listen, and just to hopefully comfort them a little bit and just to let them know that, we're in their corner and, praying for them. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of Bill 286, please say aye.
Aye. Abstain.
1 abstention. Thank you. We'll move on to, would the council sponsors prefer to read Bill 288 and 289 together or separate?
Yes, please.
Together, please.
Bill 288, ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh Code, Title 6, Conduct, Article 1, regulated rights and actions by adding Chapter 630B, prohibiting immigration enforcement in city-owned or operated spaces, and amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh Code, Title 5, Traffic, Article 1, Administration, Chapter 503, Enforcement and Control, by adding Section 503.21, prohibiting immigration enforcement in city-owned or operated spaces, and Bill 289, ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh Code, Title 6, Conduct, Article 1, regulated rights and actions by adding Chapter 630C, protecting community spaces.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we endeavored to make these 2 pieces kind of support the last piece, which is to further define kind of how we use our city-owned properties, right? And so both for public areas like parks and private areas, like think of a non-public space being like the inside of a DPW facility, right? It's not a safe space. It's not where citizens can just walk in. There's moving vehicles and there's, heavy equipment, et cetera. But also, even within this building, there are areas that, you cannot get in without a pass, where you are buzzed in. And we're just being clear, but we have some like 300 or 400 facilities across the city. So we're just, again, codifying that we're not going to be leasing these out for federal enforcement staging, right? So this has been happening across the country where there are places where cities have allowed basically federal law enforcement staging, where troops are and materials are and equipment are, and we're not going to do that here. I think this is part of the non-cooperation. And then secondly, in those areas, again, to the extent that we're legally allowed, you would need, if you were federal law enforcement, to have a warrant to enter those areas. So again, it is not, it says very clearly to the extent that state and federal law allow. It also says very clearly that when there's an action, a law enforcement action, these rules kind of don't apply. So if someone is being pursued, whether it's immigration or it's FBI, right? If there's a chase, if there's a struggle, then unfortunately we don't have the authority to say, no, you can't be here. So we've tried to draw that line. Again, we've had it reviewed by our partner organizations and the ACLU, and I feel like this is a good companion piece. So the 287Gs are specifically about law enforcement acting as agents for immigration, and that was in Councilwoman Warwick's bill. This more pertains to our buildings and facilities.
Thank you. Further discussion on the bill? Council President Lavelle.
So I appreciate Councilwoman Gross's explanation. However, and I'm going back and trying to read it now, that's not how it reads. If I've read it correctly, it doesn't read that we're going to prohibit the leasing of city-owned spaces. It reads that we're literally prohibiting. Hold on, I'm trying to go back. I apologize.
Staging.
Prohibiting immigration enforcement in city-owned or operated spaces, which we cannot do. So if you're in a city-owned park, we cannot prohibit immigration from being in that park.
Are we on 288 or 289?
288.
Thank you. The intent is that it's about staging for sure. So here's the way even if it's not an official lease, like I can't just, as a city employee, which we're technically not, but a city employee couldn't just allow ICE to be informally using like my office. Or a DPW facility, et cetera. So, yeah, it's not just that leases are prohibited, but like, so this actually does happen in law enforcement, if you didn't know. I once, as a citizen, well before I ever ran for office, had our city vice department ask if they could like camp out on my third floor of my house to surveil.
You, the surveillance.
Yes, yes, this is a real thing, right? And so we don't want our federal law enforcement to be approaching our employees and asking for the use of our city-owned facilities. So you're right, I misspoke when I said it doesn't just prohibit leasing. But we also don't want to authorize our employees to allow federal law enforcement to be, informally using our facilities. And I think that's fair, right? I actually didn't say yes to the vice squad in the city, the Pittsburgh Police decades ago, but there was a lot of known kind of drug activity within the view of my third floor of my house. I was, my neighbors and I were very distressed about it. It was one of those, problems where you have a lot of, we had criminal activity to the extent that people were being threatened. It was, it was a dire situation on our street in Bloomfield. It was 25 years ago. So this is the kind of thing that we're saying should not be. The city of Pittsburgh, the city of the council of the city of Pittsburgh is going to codify that we're not going to allow that.
Thank you. I don't disagree with what I believe the intent is. My concern is actual wording in the bill itself. And there are parts, as I'm reading through it, like there's enforcement prohibited. It is unlawful to use city-owned or controlled property for the purposes of staging, conducting, or assisting federal immigration and enforcement activities. The latter part, where it says assisting, absolutely, which is sort of the intent or the goal of the prior bill that we all voted on to pass, which is we control what our employees do, we control how our facilities are used. But other wording in here where it says you will not, federal law cannot do this, we actually can't control that. And so my concern is potentially passing a bill that says to the public, if you step inside this building, you are protected, when in fact that's actually not the case. And so I just struggle with signaling to the public one thing when that's actually not enforceable. To Councilman Coghill's earlier point, we did get, unfortunately it wasn't actual legal opinion. I read it as we sat here. But it's 7:46, I think it was this morning. We did not get a legal opinion, but we got an opinion, we got a message from the law department simply saying it would take us 3 to 4 weeks to really dive into this and figure out the minutia of the changes that needed to be made. For me, I'd feel more comfortable holding these two specific bills so that we could indeed, if we're going to pass them, pass something that we know is legally defensible, as opposed to some of the language in here. To me, we absolutely cannot defend or cannot control, but we're signaling to the public that we can. I think that's slightly problematic for me.
May I respond?
Interrogatory, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. I absolutely hear your concerns. And we heard these concerns from the law department when some of us were in executive session about them last week, and they hadn't really had a time to dive through them. And I will admit, 288 and 289 are definitely above and beyond what some of the language was in the county bill that recently passed. And so this might have been some of the places that Councilman Coghill was referring to. And, we are, I think it's, as an elected official and as someone who's got I think we have the responsibility to respond to what our residents want. I wanted to put this language out there. Again, I think it's our job to defend our constituents, and I do think it's our job to protect their rights to not being surveilled or to being fearful or to be able to enjoy city property. Is this a matter of debate? I think it still is, probably. I will definitely admit that. So I would support at least a 1-week hold on these two bills and give us all a chance to read them more carefully. Again, they do go beyond what was in Bill 286. And so I'm perfectly comfortable. I'll motion for a 1-week hold. We can continue discussion. Motion to hold 1 week.
Second.
Discussion. I see Councilman Coghill.
No, I just wanted to say to you, you're absolutely correct. This was the portion. I want you to talk to Howard from PHDC, and he will explain exactly what he means to you, and I think you two will be on the same page. And yeah, so thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion. Motion on the table is a 1-week hold for bills 288 and 289. All those in favor of a 1-week hold, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Bills will be held for 1 week. Thank you. That moves us to Public Works and Infrastructure Committee, chaired by Councilwoman Salanetro.
Deferred paper, Bill 203, resolution authorizing acceptance by the City of Pittsburgh of the dedication of 2 city-owned parcels, 49S500 and 49R296, located in the 29th Ward, 7th Council District, at no cost to the city.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 203, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Affirmative recommendation. New papers, Bill 276.
Resolution amending Resolution 240 of 2025, effective April 17, 2025, entitled Authorizing the Mayor and the Director of the Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement or agreements or the use of existing agreements between the City of Pittsburgh and Pashak Plus MTR for the professional geotechnical remediation plan and engineering services at a cost not to exceed $415,170 by increasing the total allocation by the amount of $26,257.50 for a new not to exceed amount of $441,427.50.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Discussion? Councilman Wilson.
Yeah, I just wanted to, thank you, Chair. I just want to mention that I really appreciate seeing the city continuing to work with Pashak And, part of the reason is they're in my district and they've invested a lot in East Ohio Street, especially on their own property. And they are continue to contribute to that street as we work to, continue to work on all the issues that are on that street. So, but I really appreciate the work that they do for the city, but also just like how we continue to partner with this local company. Thanks.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 276, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Affirmative recommendation. Bill 277.
Resolution authorizing the Director of the Department of Public Works on behalf of the City of Pittsburgh to enter into certain permanent and temporary construction easements in order to advance the stormwater management and noise control improvements to Pittsburgh Bureau of Police Firing Range project at no cost to the city.
Motion to approve. Oh, sorry, whose committee is this? Mine. Just jumped in. Sorry about that, Kim.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Councilwoman Gross.
Excited about this one. Sorry. Sorry to jump in. So many of you have heard lots of testimony and remember news stories, and certainly residents of District 7 have, some of whom have been telling the city about the disruption that this firing range causes for more than 30 years. And I want to acknowledge Councilman Coghill has worked with me when he was Chair of Public Safety to kind of go around and try to find alternate sites for either an outdoor and indoor firing range. This site has been here for a very long time. These bills are the beginning of work to do sound mitigation along this outdoor firing range, which is, again, for the record, the only outdoor firing range in a major urban area. Every other city our size does not have an outdoor firing range inside of it. Secondly, I just want to remind the public that not only is this facility outdoor and causes significant sound impacts, negative impacts to the neighborhoods that can hear it, it is now, there's a new county recreation facility going in like literally a stone's throw right next to this outdoor firing range, which is a new bike path, rail-to-trail bike path that will be connecting from Aspinwall on the north shore of the Allegheny River all the way across the Allegheny River, and then literally right in front of this facility, which is now in a fairly isolated area on a hillside above Washington Boulevard, but will now be really literally having people passing right by it. So this is the beginning of the work. We're very excited to see the administration supporting it and moving forward with it, and it's been a very long time coming. So at least there will be some sound mitigation work that is happening here, also safety improvements, since again it will be so close to a public recreation feature, which is again not the case. It's very difficult to get there, to even find how to get there. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank the administration for moving forward on it.
Thank you. Councilman Coghill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want District 7 to know how hard you work to try to get this thing moved. We've actually went on site tours. We found areas that we thought might be suitable. It is a heavy lift in the end, isn't it? And, just the lead mitigation at this current site was an astronomical amount of money. And, it's a heavy lift to try to move that. I'm excited for you too. I can't wait to see sound barriers, and I hope it helps. You should know better than anybody. I think you can hear it from your house, right? So you'll be a good test for the sound barriers, and I look forward to it too. And I hope this, helps comfort the people, in the new path coming along. I know you have legitimate reasons to try to move it, and I think you tried your very best, I will say. So congratulations on getting the sound barriers and funding for that.
I don't think we'll ever give up on it being moved as well. So there's still work to do.
Point taken, right.
Thank you. Councilman Mosley.
Yeah, I just wanted to again highlight this pleasant surprise on this Wednesday afternoon. Now that it is 12 p.m. on the dot, this is a facility that is actually in District 9, but has had a disproportionate impact on District 7. I don't know if I've ever got a constituent call about this from District 9, but I've had numerous conversations with my esteemed colleague from District 7 about this issue, and this is something that we work together on, but ultimately Councilwoman Gross has worked on for a many number of years. But I also did want to highlight the second pleasant surprise in this is also advancing stormwater management, understanding that valley where Washington Boulevard is, once was a lake at one time in Western Pennsylvania's earlier history, and we know about the horrible tragedy that happened a number of years ago on Washington Boulevard, which now causes a gate to come down when there is serious flooding. So it's great to see a project not only touch on one issue, which is the true disruption to people's lives that happen in Highland Park through the gun range, but then also the environmental stewardship that's associated with the stormwater management piece of that. So kudos to everyone involved, and many congratulations to Councilwoman Gross, and looking forward to seeing this project move forward.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Councilman Wilson.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Chair. So this will completely eliminate the sound, or it will just dampen it?
No, which is why we're never going to give up on moving the firing range or moving it indoors. It is definitely not going to eliminate all the sound. It's still an outdoor range.
Okay, so I thought dampening the sound was part of the...
It definitely is. It is part of the sound mitigation project, which is a completely different thing than eliminating all the sound. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what this is.
Yeah. So again, DPW, the police, 4 chiefs of police, and I'm not sure how many public safety directors have I talked to about this project now. And so there have been sound studies repeatedly, studying the site, acoustic engineers, doing the plans. I think, I don't remember exactly how much the plan itself cost, some $30,000, I think, just to do. How do we rearrange the site? Would you like to see the site plans? I've got them. All right. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, I can relay, I guess, what the plans are, since, as you know, I have some family in Highland Park that live right there on Jackson, where they...
Actually, no, I'm sorry, I forgot that.
Yeah, where they can hear it.
Yeah.
So, they'll be excited about this. Thanks.
It will make it less disruptive is the best we could do. Without, again, which is why we spent over a year trying to find a place to have an outdoor site somewhere else that would be, less populated and less reverberating, the way it echoes off of that hillside onto a residential site, and to have an indoor facility. And so we spent over a year going back and forth looking at facilities. We talked to my staff, talked to cities across the country, talked to the people that built their indoor facilities. We talked to our training people. We talked to our, police academy people. And so this is a first step. The real solution is to not have this outdoor range on this hillside. And so hopefully that will also happen, but not today, unfortunately. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Coghill.
Yeah, I think you've been clear. The goal is to move the site still. Get that. But just out of curiosity, so they are rotating it. I remember those plans. And
earthen berms, changing the way the sound waves travel, rotating it, etc. Will all hopefully cut the decibel level in half, which takes it from being
what I was gonna ask
really
you.
a distressing level to being one that, like, if you're quiet, you can hear it, but
yeah, I remember Director Hornstein
it's not going to be
us,
eliminated.
So what they're hoping for is like 50% reduction.
Which just takes it again from a level. Right. It's not like a perfect.
Right.
The way decibels work, I understand, isn't like a perfectly linear line. So to take it to a level where you were mentioning in my house, since I'm kind of over a hill, on the opposite side of a slope. Like, if everything's quiet in my house, I can hear it. If I'm standing near a window, but it's not like, alarming me while I'm going about my business in my house.
Right.
And so it's an entirely different thing, because there are some levels, like, we've got sound recordings on various days with various types of munitions, trying to track the different types of things that the firing range, the police academy is doing on different days. We're trying to tease out kind of every factor. Should we not allow some of the types of weapons to be, discharged there? Is there a difference in the types of munitions that the same weapon is doing? Is there a difference on weather and cloud? But there's been a lot of time and effort trying to parse out what could change, right? The level of noise that is being, really disturbing levels of noise that is being experienced in some parts of Highland Park, including, our little kid playground at the farmhouse, where it sounds like warfare. Because there's so many people firing, discharging so many times, that it sounds like, automatic weapons fire. So I could go on.
Yeah,
I could go on. So if you want, I will go on.
No, that's okay. No, this will hopefully be a significant change. We'll see, I guess. But make no mistake, we spent a day there looking at the training. If anybody doubts the training that the city of Pittsburgh puts into its police officers, you should see how hard and what they put them through out there. It was really a sight to behold. So yeah, we have well-trained police officers, is the bottom line. So,
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of Bill 277, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Affirmative recommendation. That moves us to our final committee of the day, Land Use and Economic Development Committee, chaired by Councilman Wilson.
Supplemental new paper, Bill 312, ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh Code of Ordinances, Title 5, Traffic, Article 7, Parking, Chapter 543, Parking Meters, and Chapter 549, Residential Parking Permit Program to implement temporary enforcement and penalty provisions for specified areas during the NFL Draft.
Motion to approve discussion.
second.
Again, with discussion?
Thank you, Chair. The bill before you does three things for just a short period of time during the draft. And what that does is it would increase on-street parking in certain streets that are downtown and certain streets on the north side that are really close to the vicinity of the event. It would raise on-street parking rates to $5 an hour in those particular areas. And then also, it also changes the fine to match what is the fine during Steeler game days. And so that fine for on-street and in RPP in two places, that fine will go up to $120. Like I said, which does seem to work in especially the neighborhood of Allegheny West to deter abuse of parking in the neighborhood. And so there was a lot of this was modeled off of that, but then also a lot of this came to light during the Parking Authority board meeting, which I'm a member of, that all prices in private garages will go up upwards of $120 a day. And so we really want to deter people from just parking their car for 4 or 5 days and just realizing that the penalty would be less than going into the garage. So the Parking Authority will have its garage rate at $40 an hour. That's not within this bill. I'm just letting you know the rate. So it's still high, but it's extremely less than the $100 or $120 that you'll see at private garages. And so then the $5 an hour somewhat matches the full rate for the day. If you were to stay 8 hours or go into the garage, it would be similar. So once again, this only affects a small part of the city, and the city, for a small amount of time, during a time whenever there is going to be high utilization. And I'm looking forward to, if there's any discussion about this bill, but also just in the future about how we look at dynamic pricing like this to really move people along on especially main streets where, those small businesses, these businesses, they really do want to see some turnover. I know people don't like to see parking rates increase, but We do have the ability to do dynamic pricing downtown, but we don't have it in other areas of the city, and I think that's always just a good conversation to continue to talk about as we move forward, trying to, make do the best we can at managing the curbside. So that's all I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the bill or anything further about this ordinance.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't know whose hand went up first. Councilmember Warwick, followed by Councilwoman Gross. Okay, Councilwoman Gross.
Thank you, Councilman Wilson. I also represent areas that have a lot of, RPP next to metered parking. And we've been trying to balance the same thing. Luckily, we don't anticipate the kind of level of influx of people that you will have with the draft. But I just wanted to echo something, since it's been a while, but something you just said. I just want to emphasize that when we don't have rates high enough in a business district, people will park there for like 3 days. Mm-hmm. And so there are places where we've experienced this, where the rates were too low in a business district, and so it's a 100% parked, and so the businesses need there to be some empty spaces sometimes so that their customers can get there. That's the whole point. So not that we don't also encourage mass transit and people walking, and I'm very fortunate also that my main streets are well supported by lots of pedestrian activity, and all that's true. But also, I was here when we first started dynamic pricing. I think Councilman Laval and I were maybe the only people here at the table. And so we had post agendas about it. We had, analyses from Carnegie Mellon. We had pilot projects. And we used to vote one rate for entire neighborhoods once a year at this table. Like, Bloomfield should be 25 cents an hour. We literally just kind of made it up. And now that we're able to see where there's too much, in some areas there's too much parking, and then in other areas there's almost no one's parking, even on the same street. Like at the time, the example would be like Liberty Avenue and Bloomfield. Still Bloomfield, still Liberty Avenue, but there are areas at the time, it's less so true now because there's new storefronts, but there were areas, blocks and blocks, where there were no cars, and then other areas where the people were parking and staying there to take the bus downtown, like park and ride. And so that means the rate is too low. And then of course we also, if we have it appropriate, it manages kind of car traffic better. It's better for our retail storefronts, and we don't want to underprice ourselves on our parking tax as well, frankly, and our parking meter revenue. So for both the private sector and the public sector, it's the right balance to keep rates to prevent people from just using them for long-term parking. It's meant to be short-term parking. So anyway, just wanted to throw that in. Thank you, Mr. Councilman Wilson.
Thank you. Councilmember Warwick, followed by Councilperson Charlin.
So could you repeat again, sorry for a minute, so you said that, our meters are able to do dynamic pricing?
So in the code we have, so yes.
Okay.
I mean, there's I'm sorry, I don't think it has smart technology like it's gonna it's not gonna count how many cars and come up with some sort of algorithm how it's gonna change the price on its own. But people behind the scenes that can program, they can be programmed to continually adjust, so we could basically not by hand, but there could be some more effort to change the price, which could be seen as dynamic, but it's not like this smart technology we have in them.
Right.
It has to be programmed by a human.
So, I mean, this is actually pretty exciting to know. I mean, we can obviously talk about it more, but I would be, because in my district, specifically in Shenley Park, we have an issue of people driving in who don't live in the city, right? Driving in, parking for free in the park all day, right?
Park and ride.
Serpentine
right,
Drive,
using
right?
it, well, not Serpentine anymore.
Whatever, yeah.
That's a touchy subject. There are no cars on Serpentine anymore. the thing that I'm curious about is it possible to do like, and I think we talked about this, like a first hour free or first 5 minutes free. So like if I'm coming to use, so we could like meter the parks, but if I'm coming to use the park, if I'm coming to do it, have a soccer, take my kid and do the soccer game at the Shenley Oval, I'm not being charged. But if I work in Oakland, that I can't just park my car all day for free, that I would have to go use a lot, if I'm choosing to drive into the city.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything. Do you want me to respond?
I mean, if you know, yeah.
Yeah, I think anything's possible. That would just take the enforcement officer to come back at that hour. Like they would do the license plate read, and then I guess they would just come back and continually circle around if they were to implement something like that, like first hour free in like specified streets.
Right. I mean, I'm wondering if it could be like programmed into, so like if you're on the app, right, and you're like, I'd like 2 hours, it just charges you for 1.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things possible within the technology that the parking authority, like we, have businesses under contract, like tech companies under contract or whatever the tech package is. They have been able to do some unique things, so it's worth a conversation with.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I love this. I'm
it's worth a conversation with Director Honorado. But just so, if I could just take this moment, just to explain this one little piece that we kind of, you mentioned that so we may not realize this, but because you mentioned the history of rates and how they change. So currently, when rates change, like you'll see sometimes every couple of years, the rates will just automatically change recently. And that's because it doesn't take council approval. The director of the parking authority emails the finance director what the rate increases they'd like to see. And the finance director signs off on that or doesn't sign off on that. And then that is really, it's just the approval of the finance director. So I just want to, it's something I even had to kind of get familiar with it whenever rates changed and people were, confused how that can just automatically happen like that. So that's the way we're currently set up. But, just like I'm doing here with this legislation, you can definitely, have a conversation with the director. Like this was in partnership with them. They're trying to understand what's possible. And that's why we're going on this route. And especially just because this is a temporary situation. So that's why this ordinance was written. Because we don't have the ability in the code. We don't have the ability to do that dynamic price change in downtown only. And so we want to just cover all our bases here. So that's why it's a separate ordinance.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilperson Shartland.
Yes, I want to thank Councilman Wilson for doing this. As we are all painfully aware, the only revenue stream that the city has that will benefit from the draft is parking revenue. The parking tax and people feeding the meter, everything else that is coming into the draft doesn't at least immediately benefit us financially. So I think this is great. I mean, I kind of said joking to you, I don't think any level is too high. I think all those spots will be full. And this hopefully lets us capture some revenue back as we're going to be expending a lot during the draft. So thank you for doing this. I think it's a win-win because it benefits your residents that already live there, but also hopefully will get us a little bit more revenue to offset our costs here. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Coghill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to make one thing clear, that I had some remarks or saw some remarks, the city's trying to gouge, the NFL or, the event that we're holding. Nothing could be further from the truth. There are other operators out there who are gouging the situation and taking advantage of the situation. I had this talk yesterday. I was telling Councilman Wilson with the Pittsburgh Steelers and a few others, and this is not gouging by any means. This is kind of what you do on regular game days anyhow, isn't it? So...
Yeah, well, the ticket fine.
Right.
Is what
Oh, the
is
ticket
on, is
fine.
on game
Okay,
days,
yeah. So it's an extra $1. Does anybody have any idea as to what kind of revenue that would generate just for 3 or 4 days, or
Nah, we
hard
haven't
to say? Hard
calculated
to
it.
say.
We haven't. No, there's no
Guaranteed every spot will be filled, though, I'm sure.
they're going to be filled, yeah.
Okay, good. So it should be a little, bump. And as Councilwoman Charlin said, people are under the impression the city is benefiting financially from this event. We are in the way of hotels and restaurants and national exposure and, many other things. But to our purse string, as Kirsten will tell you, that, we don't get a whole lot. Maybe a little bit of payroll tax for people building the stage. And as Councilman Charlin said, the parking tax is really one source of revenue we could try to get a little bump in. And by no way is this taking advantage of the situation. It's, it's minimal compared to what other operators are doing. So seems fair to me. Seems like the right thing. Thank you, Councilman Wilson.
Thank you. Further discussion? I just wanted to note on this conversation about dynamic pricing, when this first started, and I was not yet on council, but I was a staffer, we worked with a business school at Carnegie Mellon, and there were some pilot locations in, I believe, Oakland, maybe Shadyside, trying out like dynamic pricing by the day. So like during the busy times when we know everyone at Carnegie Mellon or nearby was going to be parking right there, it was maybe cheaper in the morning, but then more expensive when everyone was there, and then cheaper in the evening. So I don't know how that was made possible, but it was possible. I think it was similar to what you said, Councilman. It was pre-programmed, but then there was ongoing assessment of parking studies, who was parking where, when, to know when you needed to kind of increase the fee to encourage more movement and people moving along and discourage people parking there all day. So I think it's possible to continue that. Okay, any further discussion? Councilman Wilson.
I guess kind of like an offshoot.
I opened the can of worms.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to mention that, curbside parking is in high demand as we continue to reshape our streets to make sure that everyone is safe on the street. So if you think of bump outs, that's less parking. If you think of bike lanes, that's less parking. So these are all things that I believe this council wants. And so, yeah, the curbside becomes premium. And, I don't know. I'm interested in, not just because I'm on the parking authority board, but I just think, it's a good conversation for cities that are looking into the future and how to best handle the curbside management.
Great. Councilmember Warwick.
I just think too, it's, this idea of like, the folks think like the city's gouging them. I mean, we all have choice, right? Like you have a choice. If you're going down to the draft, you can ride 5 people in a car, right? And you can split the parking. You could take a bike. You could take the bus. And I think it's, and we talked a little bit about this morning at the interview, but it's about changing. It's that culture shift, right? Of making people understand. And, it's a conversation. My husband always is like, I don't want to pay for parking, so he'll park super far away, right? And the kids like hate it, right? You got to like walk super far, but or just making the choice. I mean, I always say it's like going into Oakland, right? Like you have a choice of how to get to Oakland. You can take the bus, you can take a bike, or you can drive. And if you drive, it stinks, right? Like and I think that we need to be asking more of our residents to sort of move with the times of just reckoning with the fact that we cannot grow this city and have a car for every person. You know what I mean? For every new person as we grow. It's just not physically possible. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of Bill 312, please say aye.
Aye.
Affirmative recommendation. Oh, now our actual final committee of the day.
Yes, thank
Innovation,
you.
Performance, and Asset Management Technology Committee, chaired by Councilwoman Gross.
Bill 287, resolution authorizing and instructing the Department of Innovation and Performance to publish and submit a report on surveillance technologies.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Thank you. So many of you have talked to me about surveillance issues, and we've been talking about it here at the table. And this is a resolution just to work with our IMP department. What I expect is that they'll they are very knowledgeable about this, And so it's an opportunity for them to kind of bring it to the public. They really, truly have been very in front of these issues. They know a lot more about it than we do. And so this is an opportunity for them to start the conversation, to tell us what they've been doing. I also envision that maybe later, after we get the report, we'll also do a post agenda and hear from some other types of experts. Certainly some cities have started to tackle these issues. And as we know, we want to make sure it's kind of like information going in both ways. And so I've said it several times recently. We have so many different technologies under contract, so many different kinds of vendors. Some of them we want to make sure, as we heard recently, we caught on an invoice, that it really is a service so that we can actually follow someone in live time, but that we only do it with the judicial warrant. And then that's a policy that, as I think, again, our IMP and our law enforcement are working on, and it's important that we all know about it and that they're able to communicate to us. But there's a second privacy problem, which is that some of the technologies that maybe you buy on your phone app or cities buy, including the city of Pittsburgh, are selling information to these third-party data brokers. And those third-party data brokers are buying so much information from so many places, they can track you. And they maybe aren't even they won't even ask for a judicial warrant. You can random person can pay them money and they will track Deb Gross as she leaves this building and goes around her day. And so we want to make sure that all the technology contracts that we have, that we're not inadvertently leaking out or selling out our important information to people. So there's a lot of work that's been done on this. Again, I really am grateful to our Innovation and Performance Department, which does our technology purchases and really thinks about these things and meets on them. And so I'm meeting with them next week, and they're eager to talk to us about it. So we put this language in place so that we can begin the conversation.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 287, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Affirmative recommendation. That concludes our standing committee's agenda. We do have meeting announcements. This afternoon, with sessions at 1:30 and 2:30, Council will hold a briefing relative to the Pittsburgh Water Customer Assistance Program. Also to note that this Friday, April 3rd, City Clerk and City Council offices will be closed in observation of the Good Friday holiday. And next week, Council will hold their regular meeting on Tuesday, April 7th, and Standing Committees meeting on Wednesday, April 8th, both at 10 a.m. To register to speak at these meetings, please fill out the sign-up form on the Council meeting webpage by the deadlines. You may also call the Clerk's office at 412-255-2138. Is there anything from members? I want to take this opportunity to wish everyone who's celebrating Easter, happy Easter, and those celebrating Passover, a very happy Passover. And with that, I will take a motion to approve the minutes and adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.